You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Myles Teteak, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans that love talking about the Pack. We're not getting into all the national sports media, talking points and distractions. We're sticking to real football, diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season, and sorting through all of the draft dreams and drama of the offseason. If y'all want to support the podcast, please spike that like button for us. Most importantly, jump on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network, and hit that subscribe button for us. If you're watching on YouTube right now, it should be right down below. Just the most minimal effort you could possibly be required to give. Just a simple click, and it goes a long way for us. So we would greatly appreciate if you do that for us. And tonight, we have another extension to talk about. Not the one I think that we were all expecting next, but certainly an impactful extension. Devonte Wyatt gets $57 million through 2029. He is going to be a Packer for a while, and we're going to get into what that could mean and all of the rest of that stuff around it. First, let's take care of some business. The show is once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks, Brewers, and all the other tickets you could possibly want. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. And remember to support all of those local businesses, Wisconsin and otherwise. Tim, good evening, sir. How you feeling about this extension?
Good evening, Myles. I'm feeling fine with it. I think it's perfectly reasonable, and not the one we were, I guess, hoping for. Not that there was, that many people against the Wyatt extension. I mean, we're all hoping for Tucker Kraft, and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Seems inevitable.
Yeah. Whether it's before training camp or during camp at some point, it'll be done before the season starts, I'm sure. But we knew Wyatt was another one that was coming up due on his contract. But I think there was at least some question about, are they going to extend him now? Or are they going to wait to see how he comes back and recovers from the ankle injury that ended last season for him? Maybe this was something that gets done during the season. Maybe they wait even longer, or maybe they end up, not being able to come to terms. So I think this one was more kind of like, might happen, might not. There was at least some question about it. Whereas Tucker Kraft, we know that's just going to happen. It's just a matter of when. But as far as Wyatt goes, I think it's reasonable. I'm fine with it. A 3-year deal makes a lot of sense because he's 28 and he's not old, but he's older coming off his initial rookie contract because he was an older prospect coming out of college. So I'm glad they didn't go 5 years with this thing. 3 years is fine. And knowing how the Packers structure their contracts, it's probably really they're locked into him through 2027. And then from there, it's we'll see. We'll see how it goes year to year, almost team options for them where they can get out of it without, any kind of major damage against the cap. So I know the initial, 3 years, $57 million, $20 million signing bonus. The real numbers will come out in the next few days to really show what the deal is. But the way the Packers structure their contracts for everybody but their quarterbacks and Micah Parsons, it's really you get money the first year or two, and then after that, it's kind of like a team option almost, the contract length. So I expect that to be with Wyatt. So he'll be here 26, 27, and we'll go from there. But I'm fine with it. I need him to stay healthy. And I think if he does, the contract will be perfectly reasonable and will fall in line. And he'll probably outplay the contract if he can stay healthy. But that's the biggest concern with him as a player is just every time it feels like he's playing well and starting to take off and really break out, an injury pops up and sets him back. But if he's over that, if he can get through a season healthy, I think this deal for the Packers will be more than reasonable and work out in their favor.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this one is the extension to me should signal how they feel, right? I mean, he was in, if we go back a year, maybe a little bit over a year ago, the beginning of the previous offseason, Goot spoke of him and Quay Walker in the same sentence of we'd like to get those guys done and like to get them extended. Quay Walker didn't make it. I wonder if he was a mathematical elimination. You've got all these guys that you're trying to extend. They gave Reed, they gave Watson. Now you've got Kraft coming up. You got Wyatt. So in all of that, did they just look at it and go, Quay's he just doesn't quite make the cut while we need to prioritize these other guys? Was there other stuff going on behind the scenes where it's like, hey, this just doesn't make sense? We're not jiving together, whatever it may be. This one, I mean, again, they were in the same sentence with Goot of we want to get them done long term. They get this one done. They get it done ahead of the Tucker Kraft extension, which again we're all kind of eagerly awaiting. To me, it's a signal of a few things. One, they feel good about who he is as a player. And if there were any questions about it, they don't have them, right? I don't think that you do this deal if you've got questions about the player. And I think that if there were questions about the injury, you may still do this deal, but you wait until you see the guy on the field in pads. So the fact that they didn't wait, to me, signals that the injury is in good shape. He should be headed for a productive training camp, hopefully a productive season. But I don't think this gets done the way it does if there's any question marks around his health at this point. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't. If they had any kind of long-term questions about it, no, I don't think they would have done this deal. I think they feel pretty confident. I mean, it was a broken fibula, torn ankle ligaments, which is not nothing. That's a pretty big injury. But there's bigger injuries, not to minimize it or like rank injuries or anything like that.
Yeah, just being realistic though.
Yeah, and I think they got a pretty good handle on it. And he was there all off season rehabbing it. They obviously haven't cleared him to practice. He may very well be cleared day one of training camp. Maybe not. Maybe they hold him back a little bit. But yeah, to your point, I think if there was any questions about his injury, they would have waited to at least like training camp or early part of the season just to see if those questions cleared up or not. But I think they probably feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, it seems like they do, and so I think this also signals that he's a leader in that position group and that they want him to continue being kind of a stabilizing force and a veteran presence in that lead, in that group. You obviously have Hargrave, 33-year-old guy's been in the league 11 years. He's probably not going to be around till 2029. No. That'd be a heck of a sign of his performance if he is, but I think this signals that they want Devonte Wyatt to be that guy. And again, he's 28 years old. We were talking about last week about some of these other guys that they've been with the team for a few years. And, we're talking about development. And some of these guys are still so young that it may seem like they've been with the team a long time, but they're still young men that are developing and who they're going to be. At 28 years old, Wyatt, he's probably pretty close to done developing. Again, he's had a little bit of a hampering because of the injuries, but you're probably not going to see him become this player you haven't seen yet. I think what we've seen is, at least when he's healthy, a good sample of who he's going to be, which is a good thing, right? I don't want to detract from that. I think that, when he's been good and he's been healthy, he's a damn good player. And we were getting very excited about him right up until he got injured again. I want to draw attention to a quote from Micah Parsons. I think it was early last season. Excuse me. And he said, and I think it was Devonte Wyatt that was being interviewed, and he was asked, about Micah Parsons saying that, he makes his life easier. Like, listen, if Micah Parsons says somebody makes his life easier, you keep that guy around, whether it's a coach or a player, that you need that guy around. You need him in the building. I think it's a good sign that he's a leader in the locker room and he's a player, the type of player that they want to be there, and they want the rest of these young guys to try to model their game after. And to me, I think it's a great signing, great extension. great decision and a great sign that he should be healthy going into training camp. When you look at the rest of this room, there's a lot of question marks, man. Like, again,
Yeah.
Hargrave is good. You got him this season, maybe next season, but, is a guy going to play past 35 years old? That's pretty rare, especially at the defensive tackle position. Then you've got some other guys. Stackhouse is still 24. He's going into his second year. You got Brinson, 24 years old, going into his second year. You got Carl Brooks, but is he – what is he? He's not as big of a presence. He's going into his fourth year. I think I don't want to sound like a jerk, man. But I feel like he's been forgettable. And I think early on he showed some good signs, of being a pretty strong guy and a strong player. And since then, forgettable is kind of the word that comes to mind. So the rest of this room really seems sort of in question.
Certainly. I think a lot of it is riding on Devonte Wyatt. And you mentioned Brooks. I mean, Brooks was always like a guy you would flash for, game here, game there. Then last year he got more of an opportunity to play more snaps, and he wasn't very good. He was, in your word, forgettable. So it's a big year for him as far as like his future at the Packers, his future in the NFL. Like, pretty obvious he's not starter. But like, can he be a quality backup? And we'll say, but with Devonte Wyatt, the success of their defensive tackle room is a lot of that's on his shoulders, because we don't know how much Hargrave has left in the tank. Maybe they get one really nice year out of him, and that would be great. But, he's certainly not in his prime. Can he give him some solid football? Yeah, I still think he can. But it's, he's not a long-term solution by any means. McClellan's in there, Chris McClellan, who they took in the third round. I like him, but he's a rookie, and he's a rookie third-round pick that's trying to play. And those guys just don't come in the NFL and, take off and play great their first year. It's going to take him time. I think there's a role for him on this defense where he can be a versatile, run down, maybe give you some pass rush downs as well, play different spots along the interior. But, like, you're not going to get a big impact, most likely, from McClellan, at least early on in the season. So, yeah, I mean, Wyatt's got to stay healthy. And when he's healthy, he's been a really disruptive and good pass rusher for him. Like, he's able to get into the backfield and affect the quarterback. And, early in the season without Micah Parsons in there, we spent a lot of time talking about the edge room, but, like, they can get a lot out of Wyatt and whatever they can get out of Hargrave, like, that could go a long way in helping their pass rush. It's not just the edge guys. It's got to be the interior. And the number one interior pass rusher is Wyatt. So, yeah, he's got to stay healthy. He's got to have a big year for them. He's really important for them.
Yeah, and we got a friend in the comments here, I think this is Chad Inc., says, I think Brooks fits better in a 3-4 rather than a 4-3. That's a fair point, man. I hope you're right.
Could be.
It doesn't seem like you would be wrong. Like that's a good point. He seemed more like a pass rusher to me than a true defensive tackle. And maybe in this system with Gannon, he's able to be more than he has been. Certainly would love to see that. But yeah, I mean, there's only a couple guys, at least from what we've seen, that you can really trust on this D line, and that's Wyatt, Hargrave, and the rest of them. We'll see. You don't know. I'm not going to write these guys off. Oh, they'll never. I don't like to do that. And I think that you've got to leave room for the next season with all the different variables going into it to be different than what the past has been. But certainly there's a lot of question marks. And so that's where. Yeah, I mean, this is a big signing, and this stabilizes the room for the future. Hopefully McClellan takes off and he can become sort of the next leader behind Wyatt. I mean, there's 6 years difference between those two guys. McClellan's 22 years old, so McClellan has the potential to be with the Packers for years after Wyatt is not. So hopefully he can develop into kind of a veteran leader presence in the room, learning from guys like Wyatt and Hargrave. And a few of the others that are in there. I mean, Jordan Riley's, he's had some moments. But yeah, Great. I really love it. I love the signing. And I wanted to bring up, let me see if I can pull this off here, do this screen share for those who are watching. But there is just a beautiful, beautiful graph that came out on Twitter X not that long ago. So I'm going to just enlarge that there. So we got this, and if you're just listening, I'll try to describe it for you. But if you've been on the social medias, you've probably seen these graphs that come out, and they combine two traits for a position group. So in this particular one, this is defensive interior percentiles from 2024, 2025. So on the let's see if I remember my math right here. On the y-axis, we have the vertical axis. We have the pass rush win rate, and on the horizontal axis, I think that the x-axis is the run stop rate percentile. So, as usual in these graphs, you want to be up and to the right. That's usually where the good guys are, is up and to the right. So it's, if you're up, that's good. Maybe you're not as good at stopping the run. But you're good at getting the pass rush and vice versa. But man, there's this quadrant up here, up and to the right, the farthest one up and to the right. It's got guys like Simmons and Hayward and Williams and Buckner. It's like, man, those are some pretty good names. And then there's Wyatt right there with them. They're just right there. And I got to be honest, I underestimated Wyatt. I didn't think he would be that far up and to the right on this graph. And shout out to Football Insights on X for sharing this. But man, he's in some elite territory when it comes to the combination of pass rush win rate and run stop rate percentile. So in my opinion, for that kind of money, and the money breaks down to about $19 million a year, that's pretty dang good, because these other guys are making bank. So I was really excited to see that, and this makes me even more excited to see him on the field this season, hopefully healthy most of the season. I also couldn't help but notice the lack of Bears players in this whole up and to the right area. I just didn't see them. There's just not any of them here. They're probably down and to the left, but there's a few of them back here. Yeah. Anyway, those darn Bears fans really should study their graphs more. But this, I thought, was a beautiful illustration. The reason I wanted to bring it up, of the value that they're getting for Devonte Wyatt. He's up there in some elite company when it comes to the combination of pass rush win rate and run stop rate. I mean, what else do you want from an interior defender?
Right. I mean, if you're combining those two, that's everything they do. That's everything they're supposed to do. And he's, based on that tracking data, I mean, he's among the elite in the NFL. It's surprising. I mean, you see the pass rush from him. You see it in spurts. You see it, games here and there. And then unfortunately, an injury will pop up, and then, he's out for weeks and he'll come back. And sometimes he's not the same. We kind of saw that in 2024. You see the pass rush. I haven't always seen the run defense from him, but I think he's gotten better. He's certainly grown and I don't want to say completely fixed his game, but he's gotten better at that aspect of his game since he's come to Green Bay. Still has room to get better and grow, but the run defense is kind of like the one where I'm more surprised that he's graded as highly, because it just doesn't seem like he's been as good as what the numbers are saying he is as a run defender. But it was noticeable that he's gotten better. I just didn't know he got better to this point. But certainly the pass rush, I mean, it shows that he's among the elite defensive tackles as far as a pass rusher goes. It's just, you need him healthy. You need him on the field, because you can see the impact that he's capable of having.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I underestimated him from this perspective. I knew he was good. I didn't think he was an elite company like that when you combine the two. But yeah, I mean, he's like a top five, just based on this graph, he's a top 5 interior defender.
Yeah.
But just, data considered, probably it's fair to say that he's a top 10 interior defender just overall. And I know that there was a lot of talk this offseason about, Jalen Carter and trying to go and get him. He's pretty far off to the left. He's on the negative side. Well, that's not negative, but on the lower side of the run stop rate. You know, he wins on the pass rush side of things about a little bit less than Wyatt. But yeah, I mean, that's a name that people were ready to fork over big bucks for. And it appears that the Packers are getting way better value out of Devonte Wyatt. So I really love it.
At least based on those numbers. And I know like there's other things you can go by. Like if it was me, I'd rather have Jalen Carter. I don't even really have to think about it, but you're going to pay, you're going to pay him
Jalen Carter.
You're going to pay him a lot more than you're going to pay Wyatt. But Jalen Carter's been a better player. Those numbers are great with Wyatt, but there's other numbers that float around. I know PFF isn't real high, has not been real high on Wyatt throughout his career. It's kind of depend on like, what do you see? What do you trust? You know, I'm not the biggest PFF guy. You and I have gone over that over the years. But yeah, I think his run defense has gotten better. It's still an area that needs to continue to improve, but the pass rush is there. Like it's just about consistency and availability with him, and it can be really good. And everybody, all Packers fans, all Packers content creators and podcasters have talked so much about like when the injury struck last year, how the team fell apart, and we lost Parsons. Obviously, that was the biggest injury. But then we also lost Kraft, and we lost Tom. Kind of gets forgotten about that we lost Wyatt, and that was a big hit to the defense. And even if Parsons stays healthy, their defense was going to fall off at least a little bit, losing Devonte Wyatt, because that was a big loss on the interior last year. And I feel like he was playing some good football for him, and he gets hurt. And that was part of the whole, you know, avalanche, the big boulder rolling downhill for the Packers. But he kind of gets lost in that mix of key players they lost down the stretch last year, and his absence was huge for them.
Yeah, no, it did get kind of lost in the sauce a little bit. And, you know, that's probably where you give Hafley a little bit of a break as far as the criticism for the fourth quarter fall aparts and all that. But yeah, that's another thing. You know, one of the things that we wanted to talk about on this episode is just what are we excited about for this season? And if these guys can stay healthy, there is a lot to be excited about. It's really, in my opinion, it's hard to narrow it down. But when you see something like that, you get the extension for Wyatt, you know, that's got a signal that he's healthy, ready to go. You see that his performance really can be elite and has shown to be elite, at least at times. That's a big deal, man. So, you know, one of the things that I was watching earlier today was, Andy, he had Mike Wall on. There we go.
Yes.
So, yeah, shout out to those guys, Mike Wall, and some of you guys, you probably saw this, but you know, I was kind of surprised at Mike Wall's take on Hafley leaving. He said that was probably the worst thing that happened to the Packers this offseason, that he was probably the best coach in the room last year as far as getting guys to you know, pay attention, essentially, you know, and listen to him and take his message. I'm excited to see what Gannon can do, man. Like, you know, and I don't expect Mike Wall to know much about Gannon. He hasn't had any reason to really pay attention to Gannon and his game up until this point. So, you know, I don't think that was as much of an indictment on who they brought in to replace Hafley as much as it was just losing Hafley. But yeah, I was pretty surprised to hear that. You know, it's obviously a negative, but you know, we've talked the last few weeks about how Hafley probably didn't take as much heat for how things went last season, as certainly he didn't as much as LaFleur, but as much as he probably should have. Because as much as the offense had we had our complaints about that, and you know, the head coach is where the buck stops and all that kind of stuff, the defense let him down. And you just have to wonder how much of an impact did Devonte Wyatt truly have? Because, you know, as much as, you know, you've got Micah Parsons, there's no doubt about the impact he has. We were kind of calling for, how do you manufacture blitzes, pressures, things like that, you know, come up with solutions for it. But how much did Devonte Wyatt's absence prevent even that? right? Like if they were trying to come up with these things, did his absence prevent them from doing those things? And they did bring in, I think it was Jordan Riley. Who was the other one they brought in? Was it Ford?
They brought
late in the
Ford back
season?
like late in the season. They brought another
Right.
dude in from, I think he was off the Seahawks practice squad, Bohanna, and he lasted like, I think he played the Ravens game, and everybody was terrible. Nobody could stop the run. They cut him the next week. It was just like a carousel of guys that they were bringing in, and they were all playing over Stackhouse, which is, not a good sign for
And
Stackhouse
Brinson.
and Brinson, but at least Brinson was like active in the games. I think Stackhouse, like it was not a good sign for Stackhouse. But yeah, you're right. Like they were bringing these guys in at the end of the season just to try to find somebody to be a big body inside and help against the run.
So I think that goes to kind of it illustrates that these other guys that they had just weren't able to do what they needed them to do. So to me, it feels like there's a giant drop off from Wyatt to the next guy last year, and then bring in Hargrave. So I don't think you can say that now. But you got to wonder, how much did that gap close over the offseason? And how much does that gap close with Gannon coming in? There's a lot of variables, a lot of factors for sure, but that was a giant gap. And I think this is showing that at this point. There's a good illustration here. So now, Tim, let's get into it, man. What are you most excited about for next season?
So I think turning to the other side of the ball from the defense, I'll start offensively. And, I was going to break it apart, but I guess I'll combine it at just the passing offense and what I think it's capable of being if they will just decide to throw the ball more often. And, in all downs and distances, just allow your quarterback to get back there and rip the ball more often than they did. Because I think Jordan Love is going to continue to ascend. I think maybe not all the doubters. There's still going to be a ton of doubters. But I think he will continue throughout the year to answer the doubters, or a lot of them. And maybe next year he won't be a 13th ranked quarterback or whatever these dumb lists have him at. Because he's not that right now. It's ridiculous, but I don't even want to get into the list stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to what he can be this year, because I think he's really set up. He's going to have a big year for them. But I also kind of group it together with their pass catchers, and I almost want to call it like they're not new, but it's almost like the new way of using the new distribution of the pass catchers, right? Because they let Dobbs leave, they traded Wicks. Probably not as deep as they were last year, but maybe it's more set up for them to, everybody knows their roles. We're going to, cut down on so much substituting so we can really streamline it. That's what I'm trying to say for your pass catchers. And like Watson was really good last year when he came back from injury, and I expect him to be really good again this year. And again, like kind of with Wyatt, different extent, but like he's just got to stay healthy. And we saw last year when Watson came back from his ACL recovery, how good he can be. And I think he can be even better than that this year. He's just got to stay on the field. And I'm expecting Matthew Golden to take a second-year jump and to have much higher production and be way more involved in the offense this year than he was last year. And Jaden Reed missed most of last season. He got hurt in week 2, didn't come back till late in the year. That is a big addition to this offense. So just those three, super excited to see what they can finally all do, all healthy together, because we didn't really see much of that last year. And then you throw in Tucker Kraft, who's among the best tight ends in football and will be the next extension we talk about most likely. Like we never saw like all 4 of those guys together healthy last year at all. There was one game that Kraft and Watson played together last year. So to get them all back, all those 4 pass catchers, and then whatever else we may get from Savion Williams or any other receivers or tight ends, like I'm just super excited to see what they can do as a passing offense. Because I think it's like we've had all this talk about lists and how good is the offense, how good can they be, and where are they going to rank? And I think they're already a really good offense. Those players, Love and his pass catchers, are very good. They have to stay on the field together, number one, so health, and then you got to allow them to just take over. put the ball in Jordan Love's hands. Like they gotta make the decision to throw the ball and be a more open offense and allow Jordan to take command. Because I have full trust in what he can do as a quarterback. And I think I think Jordan Love's going to have a really big year. And I think those pass catchers with him are going to as well. As long as they're healthy. So number one thing for me is just like the passing offense, however you want to label it, quarterback and his pass catchers. Super excited to see what they can be.
Yeah. And it looks like our friend R. Showers agrees with you. He says Savion has more upside than Wicks. Golden has more upside than Dobbs. We should be fine. Appreciate you, R. Showers. Good to have you in here with us. Yeah, and I have to agree wholeheartedly with that. And really with your sentiment just about the passing offense. It's one of those things where the passing offense can be loaded with potential and have everything else get in its way. If you don't have a good O-line, it can prevent you from showcasing that. If you don't have, if you got injuries like you've had where, yeah, sure, you got one guy healthy and then the next guy goes down and then that guy gets healthy. And, when you're playing whack-a-mole with who you can actually put on the field, being able to see Watson, Kraft, Reed, Golden all on the field at the same time, that gets me excited. And again, Savion Williams, what they can do with him. If you get all those guys on the field at the same time, man, that is a lot of fun. There's a lot of weapons there. There's a lot of ability there, a lot of potential there. And in my opinion, if you're a defensive coordinator and you have all those bodies on the field at the same time, that's a tough assignment. There's a lot of speed and size there that you have to deal with. And even if you do, then you've got to deal with Tucker Kraft finding the open field. And it just seems like an impossible assignment to me for a defense. But all that said, those factors are hard to get to come together. As far as having the O-line hold up there into the deal to give the quarterback enough time to throw the ball, having the quarterback healthy, having all the receivers healthy, having everybody up to speed in their playbook, and there were years there where the receivers are making mistakes. And, even early on in his career, Tucker Kraft, we were talking about him making mistakes. There was a lot of growing pains associated with this group. So I think one of the mistakes that exterior fan bases make, right, like the Bears fans, for instance, they assume that the players that we have are what they've seen, where it's like, not really. I think you've only seen a couple of these guys at their full potential, which, I think you got to see flashes of Jaden Reed at his full potential. You got to see flashes of Christian Watson at his full potential, flashes of Tucker Kraft at his full potential. We haven't seen what Golden is yet. We haven't seen what Williams is yet. God, please don't let Williams just be a check down king. Like, what a waste of a 6'5", 225 athlete. Like, please, let's just not let that be what he is. But when you get these guys at their full potential, man, it's like, sheesh, it's overwhelming to try to think about stopping that as a defense. And I wanted to call out, I'm going to bring our screen share back up here because I just saw this as well, the 2022 draft class. So for all the Goot haters out there, turn away because you're about to be upset. In 2022, obviously Quay Walker, he's gone. He was the first pick. Devonte Wyatt was your next pick. Not a bad pick, it looks like. The pick after that, Christian Watson. Not a bad pick, it looks like. Pick after that, Sean Ryan, your starting center. Not a bad pick. Who I already talked about, Mike Wall, on Andy Herman's show earlier. He had some really good things to say about Sean Ryan, that he's gotten better every year, noticeably, and he's excited to see him at center this year. He really thinks that he'll be a good center. Then you got Romeo Doubs after that, who he may not be a Packer anymore, but I think we can all agree turned out to be pretty good. Zach Tom was the next pick after Doubs. Pretty stinking good. Kingsley Enagbare was after that. And again, not a Packer, but for a fifth-round pick, you got some good play out of the guy. I wanted him to stick around. I was hoping that they would keep him. You can only keep so many bodies. Then you got Tariq Carpenter. Obviously, I don't think he's even in the league anymore. Jonathan Ford is the next one who, he's made his way back to the Packers now. And, he's not necessarily a starter, but he's on the roster. He's still contributing, and he was a 7th-round pick. So it's like, all right, 7th-round pick, 4 or 5 years later, not bad. Rasheed Walker was the next pick after that. in the 7th round, who we can say he had a bad season last year, but for a 7th round pick in 2022, you got some damn good left tackle snaps out of him. And then the final pick was Samori Toure, who I even was pretty excited about. He had some flashes. I do believe he's still in the league. I don't know what team he's with, but I thought I saw recently that he's still in the league. So the 2022 draft class, well done, Goot. Well done.
And I mean, even like Walker and Dobbs and Igbari, they're not here anymore, but like you can't keep everybody. You can't pay everybody. They went and got paid by other teams. Like Dobbs got the big deal in New England. Quay Walker got paid a lot by the Raiders, and Igbari, I think he only got a 1-year deal, but it was like $10 million with the Jets. Like, he's not a starter.
And Walker
but
got a deal.
Yeah, Walker came in a lot lower than what everybody was thinking he was going to get and all that. But like Walker was a 7th
round pick.
Right. Like you're lucky he makes your team and lasts his rookie contract, let alone he was a starter and at times, a quality starter, certainly not in 2025, but like he exceeded what a 7th round pick should do for you. And Igbari is a 5th round pick, has turned into a nice rotational edge rusher. I'm with you. I would like to have seen them find a way to keep him, but you can't keep everyone. And, he got a decent deal from the Jets, but like, yeah, that was a good draft. Like, so, everybody that says Goots doesn't draft well, he drafted well there. And Devonte Wyatt's getting a 2nd contract. So Goot hit on a 1st round pick and he hit on Quay Walker. I know Quay Walker's not here and Quay Walker wasn't like an all pro ball linebacker, but like
he wasn't a bust.
He wasn't a bust. No. And we'll see what he ends up being with the Raiders, but he was, I wasn't the biggest Quay Walker fan. He had his ups and downs, but certainly Raiders thought he was pretty damn good to pay him the contract that they did. So, yeah, that was a really nice draft for Goody.
Yeah, so I just wanted to call that out because I know that Goot takes a lot of heat for, especially for his drafts, but there's a lot of people that think he's just not a good GM. I'm not one of them. But 2022, hell of a draft. That was, I think on average you want to hit, meaning getting valuable guys that contribute to the team on about 50% of your draft picks. I think the Packers, when I did a look at it, they hit on about 54 to 55% of their guys, and they draft more guys than the average team. So I think that's part of that strategy is it's like, look, if we're on average drafting 10 guys while the next team is drafting 5 and we have the same hit rate, we're going to have considerably better players after a few years than the guys drafting 5. So that's where, I just wanted to call that out. But as far as being excited about this season and what we're, looking at, and even our Shower's got another one in here, having Lloyd. I didn't even mention Lloyd because again, he's not real to me until he's on the field, but the potential's there. The potential is definitely there. If you could put him on the field with the rest of these guys, absolutely. That's a tough assignment for the defense to try to stop. And so where I get the most excited, maybe, if we're just talking about offense right now, it's the potential, man. The potential for this offense is massive. And, again, exterior opinions aside, maybe Bears fans and Vikings fans and all these others, you throw some Cowboys fans in there. They like to talk a little trash. They think that, oh, these guys suck. I've heard that there's people out there that think the Packers have the worst receiving room in the league, which I think is just an asinine opinion, just completely ignorant. But again, they're thinking of this as what these guys have been. We have not seen this offensive pass attack as what it can be. I don't think at all. I don't think there's like a real example of like the full force of this offensive potential that they have. If they can stay healthy and we can see that, oh man, yes, I'm beyond excited about that. And I do think, again, you got to have the O-line hold up. You still need a good run game. You really do. You need Lloyd to hang in there and stay healthy. Hopefully Jacobs has his off-field issues taken care of. We haven't heard anything more about that. Certainly not like we've heard the Lions' former cornerback. That was a little bit more of a damning situation. Yeah. Goodness gracious. But yeah, I mean, if you can keep those guys intact for this season, and let me be clear again, like if Jacobs is guilty of something, it's yes, like get him out, but we don't know. So like that's just all we can talk about. So that's where, I get excited about the full potential of this passing attack. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's some good passing offenses, but when you have that type of ability on the field all at once, like, I don't know that there is a passing attack better than that in the league, right? I mean, maybe Dallas with George Pickens and 88. Why am I blanking on his
CD
name?
Lamb.
CD, yeah. I kept wanting to say Debo. I was like, it's not Debo, it's CD. Maybe that situation, because you got two just absolute superstars at receiver and then some decent depth after that. Ferguson at tight ends, not bad. But like, again, like the full potential of this passing attack, I don't even know that that's better. I don't know that there is a better group in the league than that. And how much of that full potential can you get? Maybe we don't get any of it. Maybe we don't see it at all. That's the hell of it. Is if somebody gets injured in camp, or if the O-line doesn't hold up their end, boom, that's out the window. So it's a very delicate potential, right? You may not see it at all, but man, if you do, boy, yeah. Give me some front row tickets to that show.
Yeah, and for me, like, the O-line is the big question mark, and we talked about that last week when we did our biggest concerns going into training camp. Was offensive line's one of the big ones, right? But if they can just be, average, just or slightly above average offensive line, like, we don't need them to be top 5. That would be awesome if they could be. But if they could just be all right and hold up their end of the bargain, the passing offense has a ton of potential. Can they stay healthy, right? Like, that's the big question mark with Christian Watson, with Jaden Reed, with Tucker Kraft coming off an injury. They just got to stay healthy. But I think Matthew Golden going into year 2 set up to have a big jump. Maybe call it a breakout year, whatever you want to call it. I really like his potential and what he can bring to the offense. We saw how good Watson can be coming off his ACL last year. We know Jaden Reed's one of the better slot receivers in the NFL, and Tucker Kraft's one of the top, however you want. I hate doing lists, but he's one of the top 3, 5 tight ends in the NFL, however you want to call it.
End the 2026 season as the best tight end in the
NFL. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it's asking a lot because he is coming off a major knee injury and an ACL, but he is really friggin' good. So yeah, they have a ton of potential for what they can be in the passing game, even, factoring in the offensive line, factoring in needing a running game. And that's kind of a question mark because of availability. Two players who's much different kinds of availability. But yeah, I'm super excited about what the passing offense can be. And they got to let them be that. Like, let's take the reins off a little bit. Let Jordan Love cook and get the ball to your receivers, because I think having the streamlined kind of receiver group too is going to help them so that the roles are much more defined than they were in the past.
Yeah, I think that there might have been too many bodies in the room last year. And I know what they were going for is, you got the deeper the room, the more the competition and all that. But I do think that at some point there are diminishing returns there. And I think that's part of what they were running into. And, you may see Wicks get out there in Philly and, show off way more than he could in Green Bay. You may see a new version of Dobbs that comes loose. But again, like, there's just only so many targets to go around. I think you're spot on. This streamlining of the room, you've got more defined roles. You don't necessarily need receiver 1, but you also don't need receiver 7 out there who also is taking cornerback reps in practice on critical downs, like 4th down late in the season. For God's sakes, Matt LaFleur, somebody get this to him. Tell him to never do that again. Melton is not allowed on the field on 4th down.
He's going to be playing receiver this year.
He is. At least he's practicing at receiver. He'll at least have the assignment, repped out a little bit, instead of practicing at cornerback and then going and playing receiver in critical downs when you've got better receivers on the freaking sideline. Boy, you want to talk about failures last year. That was one of them. Holy crap. But anyway, I want to throw it to our friend Bill here. He's joining us again. Good to have you back, Bill. He said most excited about dominance. Got a little season of Reggie White there, man. That was always Reggie White's breakdown. Dominate on 3, 1, 2, 3, dominate. Yes, dominance, man. I agree, and I want to see some of that. Hopefully, Devonte Wyatt's got a little bit of that in him. A little Reggie White's attitude. But shifting over to the defense, I think it's easy to say you're excited about Micah Parsons. So let's just have that as a given. I don't care when he comes back. We have one of, if not the best pass rusher in the league. I mean, this guy is on a podcast this last week with Myles Garrett, the new sack record holder, basically telling him to his face, I am coming for your record and I can do things you can't do. Oh, brother. Like, listen, that is just a whole different kind of attitude, right? Like, and it's not even cockiness. Like, because if anybody who saw the clip, it's not arrogance. Like, he was speaking on confidence and saying, look, I can do things you guys can't do, you guys being the rest of the pass rushers in the league. And saying that to the guy who just broke the sack record this last season. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? Yes. I'm so glad that guy is in the locker room. I don't even care that he's not on the field right now. That attitude in the locker room, in the weight room, and just in training in general. Oh man, come on now. That may sound like, well, everybody wants to be the best, right? Like, that's what they'll tell you coming out of the draft. Oh, I want to be the best, and no, there are very few guys who can sit next to the guy who is indisputably the best based on the most recent performance and tell him to his face, I'm going to be better than you. It's going to happen. Talk about what you're excited for. That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited also to see what Jonathan Gannon can do with that and the rest of the group. But dude, that attitude, I give me a brick wall. Somebody give me a brick wall. I'm going to run through that bad boy. I'm excited about that.
I've been excited about Micah Parsons ever since they made that trade. I mean, everything he's brought to the team has been pure excitement. Like, he's on a different level, obviously, than anybody they had in Green Bay, but like, he's on a different level than anybody in football. It's him and Myles Garrett. There's a lot of really good pass rushers, but those two stand alone. And, maybe there's a Will Anderson knocking on the door or somebody like that, but it's those two and then a whole bunch of other really good ones, but they stand alone. And he's been that guy since he came to Green Bay, and he has the target on his back every rep that he's out there. And it don't matter how many guys you put on him. Doesn't matter how many times they're grabbing his face mask or grabbing around the throat or holding his jersey and none of it gets called. He finds a way to just keep going and going and going and getting to the quarterback. And yeah, I mean, he's been well worth the money they paid him with that contract and well worth what they gave up for him. It sucks he got hurt because who knows how the rest of that season would have went. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see him back on the field. Obviously, I think, every Packer fan's thinking the same thing. When's he coming back? But yeah, he's elite. He's elite in everything he does. He's an elite competitor, and to have an attitude and like that, it almost sounds arrogant, but like, it's not, because it's true. And he says what he feels and he backs it up.
There's a difference. Like, when someone's being arrogant, there's like a flavor to it. You can just like taste it. Like, there was no arrogance in his voice when he was saying that. And again, I encourage you guys to go watch this. I don't know if it was Parsons' podcast. It might have been his podcast, but it was somebody's podcast. And it was Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons sitting next to each other in front of an audience. And Micah Parsons told Myles Garrett, I'm coming for that record. It may not be this season because I'm not going to be on the field for half the season, but in the next 2 to 3 years, I'm coming for it. And it's because I can do things that y'all can't do. And I think one of the things that he was referring to, and this is where I think that it's just confidence, it's not even arrogance, is exactly what you just said, Tim. He knows that there are so many flags that haven't been thrown. And I think it's because he's an unfair advantage. Like, you almost have to let the O-line hold the guy or he's going to have like 40 sacks. And that's a little bit exaggerated, right? But I mean,
Right.
you could see it game in and game out. It's like these guys are not, it's not just a slight hold. They got him in a choke hold. They're grabbing his face mask. They're just basically water skiing behind the guy with his jersey, holding him for every, every bit of desperation that they have. And that's the only reason the guy hasn't already shattered the sack record. Because I mean, shattered. I think when he breaks the sack record and they finally start throwing flags on the plays that they should and get the O-line to stop doing what they do to him, he will shatter it. It won't be broken by 1 or 2 sacks. I think he'll break it by 4, 5 sacks. Because you watch the game and you see these things. You're like, good Lord, man. It's every play. Every single play, the O-line has to hold him in an egregious way to keep him from just murdering the quarterback. And so that's where, if you watch the go back, I encourage all of you, go find the interview, go find the podcast, whatever, Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett, and watch how he speaks about this. It's not arrogance. It's just not. Like it's just a very, very strong confidence that he has in his own abilities. And I got goosebumps just talking about it, man. I watched that like 5 times just to listen to him talk about it. And you just don't get that. You don't get that. Even with the most cocky receivers in the league, you don't get that kind of talk or that kind of attitude. It just doesn't happen. So that's, man. And I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you there, Tim, but
No, you're good.
There's no arrogance there.
No, he just knows he's special.
He does. He knows it. And anybody who's watching the games, they see it too. And I just think it's impossible to not be excited about, even if it is only half the season, which again, I push back against. I think this whole half the season thing, I hate that. I think it's dramatic and ridiculous. I think he misses 5 games at the most, which is not, they don't play a 10-game season, guys. It's more than that. So I don't think he misses half the season, but he misses enough of it to say he's not going to get the sack record this year.
No.
If he gets a full healthy season, the next full healthy season he gets, I think that sack record is in big danger, big time danger. So kicking it back out to the comments, our shower said, I would be excited to see Bullard and Williams combine for 8 interceptions. Hey,
he stole my thunder, because that's the other thing I wanted to get to.
You two agreeing this much? Holy
me
crap.
and our showers. Wow.
What's going on?
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, I did Bullard, Williams, and I threw McKinney in there too, because I wanted to make it the safety / nickel. Like I'm excited to see, because I think those are the guys that can create the turnovers for the defense that they lacked last year. Like I think it's got to come from those 3 mainly. Last week we did our concerns, and our big concern was the outside cornerbacks. But I'm real optimistic and real excited to see the safeties and the nickel in Javon Bullard. I think this is the year Bullard takes another step and really becomes a huge difference maker. Evan Williams, I think, is probably already there. He's a damn good safety. He flies under the radar a little bit, but I think he maintains his consistency. Maybe he gets a few more splash plays with the turnovers. And then McKinney's been really damn good for 2 seasons. And I don't think people realize, like, he was still really good last year. He didn't come away with all the picks that he was getting in 2024. Like he got him in bunches in 2024. He's just got to catch the ball when it comes to him. And I think that was the biggest difference, was that he dropped a few that he should have had. If he starts catching them again, forcing those turnovers, like that's the defense really lacked that. And that's another thing, like why Mike is out. If they can start forcing turnovers, even if they're not playing good on a down-to-down basis or consistent, the turnovers can swing games, get your offense back on the field, and that can be the difference. And I think it's got to start, maybe not start, but I think it's going to come from those 3 players mainly, and that's Williams, McKinney, Bullard. And yeah, really excited to see too how Gannon uses them, especially Bullard, because I think in that nickel role, he's going to use him as potentially a chess piece. I think we're going to see him come off the nickel, off the slot, more blitzing. Not a ton, because Gannon's not a big blitzer, but I think we'll see him utilized a little bit more going towards the line of scrimmage than how Hafley did. And yeah, I really like the combination of McKinney and Evan Williams. Not sure if there's a better safety duo in the NFL. So if they get the turnovers this year, that could really be the game changer that sets this defense up and, is the difference between what we saw last year on defense and what we're going to see this year.
Yeah, No, I'd agree with that. Just to echo, last week we talked about our concerns. What are we excited about this week? It's got to be the safeties, man. And the thing about the safeties is they can hide a lot of other issues, right? They can definitely hide some of the problems and the shortcomings of the cornerbacks. They can definitely hide some of the coverage, maybe shortcomings of the linebackers if there are some.
Yeah.
And tight ends are becoming a problem in this league, right? When you come up against a good tight end, it can really, really hurt you. When you got safeties like McKinney and Williams and even Bullard in the nickel, you got a real strong ability to neutralize those good tight ends and maybe force those teams to rely on other guys. I wanted to point, we already looked at the 2022 draft class, and I wanted to kind of take a look at the 24 draft class. And maybe I'm being a little bit premature here, but if Jordan Morgan has a good season for you and you find your, franchise left tackle, your starting left tackle of the foreseen future, you got Jordan Morgan 1, you got Edge Cooper 2, you got Javon Bullard as a second round pick, but the third player picked. Marshawn Lloyd's one that if he turns out, now you've hit on 4 for 4 so far. Tyron Hopper was your next pick. I'm really thinking he's on life support right now.
Yeah.
I think the McDuffie extension was a bad sign for Hopper. But after that, you got Williams. Then you got Jacob Monk, who not looking like he's going to be a starter, might turn into, a good depth guy on the O-line, still kind of leave some room for that one to develop. Katano Ladapo is the next one, who's been a good special teams player. And when he has played at safety, he hasn't looked bad.
Right.
And then you got Travis Glover, O-tackle, Michael Pratt, quarterback. He's out of the league already. And Kalen King, who is not with the Packers anymore. So the end of that draft is, that's probably pretty well decided. You really could have hit on 4 for 4 at the top of that draft and 5 for 6 overall, those first few picks. Not bad. So for the Goot can't draft crowd out there, I think you guys, you're losing a little of your steam. You're going to have to really seriously root against the Packers this season in order to be right. And I don't think you are right. I think that class is going to end up looking really good too. So I'm very, very excited about the safety group. I'm excited to see what Edgerrin Cooper can be, and we talked a little bit about him last week. I know that some fans think that, he took a step back last season or wasn't as good, whatever. I think you got to go to the tape to get a real evaluation on him, but I would struggle to say that he went backwards. I think he developed last season into a better player. And sometimes being right on your assignments is less visible on the stat sheet, but it's a better outcome. Is that fair to say?
Yes. I think he just didn't have the splash plays last year that he had the year before. And I also think that maybe they were so focused on things to do with Micah Parsons that they kind of forgot about things to do with Edgerrin Cooper as a defense, as a scheme. I still thought he had a really solid year for him. He didn't have the splash plays. And as a defense, they didn't create very many turnovers. So hopefully this year they can flip that. And guys like Cooper, the safeties, Bullard, who I mentioned as well, like those can be the guys. But I'm not down at all on Cooper. I still think he's got special talent where he can be one of the better linebackers in the NFL. And I think we're going to see him take another step this season. Can he start making the big plays that he was making as a rookie behind the line of scrimmage or creating turnovers? That would be great. But even if it's, doing everything but the turnover plays, he's still going to be a really nice, really important player, really valuable player for him.
Yeah, totally. But I'm excited to see him return to the splash plays, like combine the sound assignments with splash plays. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I certainly am not willing to back off the idea that he has all pro potential. I think he does, and we were very excited about that idea going into last season. I don't think there's any reason to believe this season he doesn't have the same possibility of being an all pro. And I would love to see him turn into that. And man, if you got an all pro Edge Cooper with a healthy Micah Parsons and the safety group the way it is, and a healthy Devonte Wyatt, all of a sudden this defense looks nasty. And all of those things add up to the cornerbacks not being as bad, because all of those things going well puts less pressure on the outside guys. It requires them to do less. The time that they have to cover is shorter. The assignments that they have are easier. All of that comes into play. And even at the beginning of last season, when Micah Parsons was doing what he was doing, Keyshawn Nixon looked like a good corner, right? I mean, like, he did. I remember myself saying, is he cornerback one? And kind of being surprised by it and excited about what I saw. And he had a lot of pass breakups. But the problem was when you have to cover for, you go from covering for 2 to 3 seconds to 4 to 5 seconds, it's a big deal. Big difference.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. If the pass rush can come together, if they get some more turnovers than they did last year, makes everything look a lot better. Those are some big ifs though, but they're capable of it. And you just hope, like, sometimes turnovers, it's just luck at times. Like, you have a down year, the next year you have a big year, and you see regression all the time with teams that get a ton of turnovers, and the next year they fall off. The Bears got a ton of, not to pick on the Bears, but they got a ton of turnovers. I know they got a ton of turnovers last year. Like, that usually doesn't sustain itself. Like, they're going to have regression on that. So, like, how do you, like, some defenses, they fall apart because that's what they were based off of, was getting all those turnovers. We've seen it for some Packer defenses in the past, like, where they got turnovers. They were living off the turnovers, but then when the turnovers went away, you really weren't that good. So obviously you want to be good and get the turnovers at the same time, but just a little bit improvement there can really go a long way with the defense, with the offense, getting more possessions, because this was an offense last year that, didn't, I think I saw the stat going around last week. They averaged 8 or 9 possessions a game on offense, if you take out like kneel downs, which is not a lot. So
not enough.
Yeah. Cooper factors in, and the safeties and the nickel, and those guys are playing well, making plays. You're getting a pass rush. Yeah. Your cornerbacks can hold up and, not look too bad. And I think to your point, I think Keyshawn Nixon at times last year, especially the first half of the year when Parsons was playing, and he was doing all right. Like, he wasn't an all pro. He wasn't, a great corner, but he was holding up and playing all right. And then when Wyatt went out, when Parsons went out, it was bad. And it was bad from really all the cornerbacks, not just Nixon. So yeah, he needed to come together, and hopefully it does for the Packers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we spent time on what to be concerned about last week. We wanted to balance that out with what to be excited about this week. We've got one more podcast before training camp kicks off.
Yes, we do.
One more. So I am very, very excited about that. Just Packers football coming back to the field in general. I'm not here to make any big promises. I'm not here to make any bold predictions of undefeated seasons, or, I will always enthusiastically say that the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl just out of optimism. But I think that what I can say very confidently is there's a lot to be excited about for this Packers season. If you're a Packers fan, there's a lot to be excited about. Don't listen to these rival bozos that haven't won a Super Bowl in their lifetime, for crying out loud, or ever for the other ones. Or, just don't listen to these outsider fans. Oh, you guys are terrible. You got the worst receiving room in the league. All these ignorant, lazy takes. Oh, Jordan Love can't get it done in the playoff. Yeah, I'm sorry. 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 300 plus yards isn't getting it done. Sit down. Just sit down. These uninformed opinions that these exterior fans have are ignorant. There is a ton to be excited about with this Packers team this season. And if anybody wants to sleep on it, fine. Let them sleep on it. I'm telling you right now, there is a massive amounts of things to be excited about. I can also tell you that they could all go wrong. Like, we've seen that, and it could all fall apart.
Yeah.
That's definitely happened too. But the point being is everybody's 0-0 right now. Everybody's, at least as healthy as they're going to get. And there's a lot for Packers fans to be excited about going into training camp, a lot to watch for. McDuffie last couple days, I don't know, it's a couple days ago, got interviewed on NFL Network and was saying that, there's some fun stuff they're working on with Gannon. He sounded very enthusiastic about Gannon. There's a lot to be excited about as training camp opens up and to watch for. So definitely get excited. Allow yourself to be excited. This is not one of those seasons where you should expect them to go 9-8 or whatever, some kind of mediocre ass record. This is a 13-win team. They stay healthy. This is a 13-plus win team. So get excited, Packers fans. And training camp's right around the corner. Next week, we'll probably do like a little bit of a training camp preview, talk about some position battles, guys that are on the bubble, different things like that. But, we're excited here. And the Devonte Wyatt extension took a little bit of time on the pod away from us talking about what we're excited about, but we're excited about that extension. I think it was a great move, good value. We talked a little bit about that. So be excited, Packers fans. Jump back in with us next week. We'll be streaming live Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. And we're going to be talking about training camp because it'll be only a few days away at that point. But if you had fun with us here tonight, definitely spike that like button for us. Tell a friend about the pod. Bring more Packers fans here. Help us find more Packers fans. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that little subscribe button. It's right below the screen. It's right there. It should be in your face. You got to just click it. Just click on it right now. You've been with us this long in the pod. You definitely should just go ahead and subscribe. We're not going to spam you with anything, but there are some other awesome shows on our channel. The No Huddle guys and Limps. And there's some good stuff, good content all throughout your week for Packers talk. When you can't get enough of it, we got it for you. So come and hang out with us again next week, guys. And of course, as always, go Pack, go.